Osiyakhana thina nisibona sizokwakha thina.
Hi everyone, and welcome to a very special stream of Planet Zoo, which we're doing for SimFest. My name is Tim, and I'm your lead community manager for Planet Zoo. And today we're going to be looking at all the different parts of Planet Zoo and what makes it such an incredible simulation game. And to do it, I've got a couple of very special guests. So let's introduce the first one straight away. We have Bernie.
Hello everybody.
How are you doing, Bernie?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing very good, thank you very much.
Good.
So, Bernie, you're a part of the development team.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell everyone at home a little bit about what that is for us?
Sure, of course. So I am the lead environment artist on Planet Zoo at the moment. So I'm sort of helping the scenery team, and we kind of together all collectively create all the scenery and exhibits and enrichments and things that you use within the zoo. So lots of fun things involved.
Lots of incredible things as well. It's always a pleasure to see everything that you've been working on. So for today's stream, we've got a special treat as well. So as I mentioned, we're going to go through everything to do with Planet Zoo and talk about all the different parts and everything you can expect if you decide that you want to pick it up. But in the meantime, there's a whole bunch of different people who work on the game, and we've asked one of our very talented artists called Josh to help us in the background as well. So he is going to be doing some live drawing along with everything else whilst in between. As you can see, he's ready. He's written a little hello for you on the screen there. It's super cute. And so this is Josh saying hi, and we'll be checking in with him throughout the stream to see how he's getting on, drawing a little sneak peek from our next DLC pack.
Ooh, what could it be?
So, Planet Zoo. Let's talk about what is Planet Zoo.
Yeah, definitely.
So, of course, this is SimFest. So Planet Zoo is an authentic zoo simulation. You'll be looking after the animals, you'll be looking after your guests, you'll be looking after your staff as well, and you've got a whole lot of depth in there if you want it.
Definitely.
Which is pretty fantastic. And we've got all of the different things of the animal life cycles that you need to manage, conservation to consider. There's a lot there, right, Benny?
There are a lot of elements. You can kind of delve in as deep as you like, or sort of keep it within sort of creative aspects of it, just playing with scenery and things like that. But it's all about sort of how you as the player interact with the animals. So there's loads of ways to do it, definitely. We definitely have sort of a massive variety of animals now throughout all the different packs and things that we have. So there's lots of things to explore.
We've got tons to explore, and we'll be getting to exploring just a little bit of that throughout the stream today. Aside from the animals in the simulation, there's actually a whole other giant side to Planet Zoo, which lets you show your creativity, which I know is one of your favorite parts, being an artist, of course. So you've got building that's available in there, you've got sharing that building as well. You've got all of the inspiration from the rest of the community where you can create something, even if it's an entire zoo, and then you can share that on Steam with the Steam Workshop with everybody else who's out there. And likewise, you can go there and you can either pick up things, pop them in your own zoo, or you can get inspiration from what somebody else has created. There's a whole lot in there, and I know that for yourself, like looking through that, when we're talking about the game and when we're playing the game around the office, there's just, let's go check out the workshop, right?
Constantly. I think most of my sort of inspiration always will come from the community. Like, the things that people create is insane. Like, it will constantly, every single time I go on there, it's just, I'm blown away. And I love just, grabbing some things off Steam Workshop, putting them in my zoo myself and sort of building up around it, sort of embedding it a little bit and stuff. It's amazing what you can do with it.
It is incredible. And one, I would say, incredible aspect, again, I like that word, so we're going to keep using it. It's a good word, it's a great word, is the education side of the game. So you'll be looking after your animals, but you'll also be able to learn so much about them. The amount that I've learned about animals in general, just from working with Planet Zoo and the Planet Zoo community, is just incredible. In the game, you'll learn about conservation, you'll also learn facts about individual animals and everything as well. It just keeps going. And there's also a huge part inside the game of providing this for your guests so that you can educate them as well. And it's something that they seek out, which is really cool. So with like boards around your zoo, educators having conversations or talking points to tell you more about it, like you may have experienced if you've been to zoos yourself as well, which is all pretty amazing. We're going to change up that word. So I think let's start with the animals then, shall we?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's go straight for the first and most vital part of any zoo simulation is the animals in your simulation. So we've got another guest who you'll meet later who's currently playing the game for us. And let's have a look at some lions, shall we? Okay, so here we've got the lion. I don't know about you, but whenever you think about zoos, lions are just one of those really iconic animals that you would associate with it. And of course, we've got our own majestic lions running around in our zoo as well. They look incredible. Yeah,
I mean, look at the mane. It's just glorious. I want that hair.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone would. It's just
impressive
sight to behold. And but the team have done a really great job of bringing these animals, the lion right here especially, but all the others in the game, to life in our simulation for Planet Zoo. And there's all these other aspects to go with it as well, like you've got the keepers, for example, that need to come and look after them. So there's a few different tasks they can do to help with looking after your animals, right? Yeah, no, there's lots of interactions that the keepers will have between the sort of the zoo aspect and sort of upkeep of the animals themselves in their habitat. So there'll be a sort of like, they'll go around cleaning the habitat. They'll also be feeding the animals, so they'll be using some of the food items and things that you'll be placing down, so sort of like feeder points, or they can always just put it on the floor if you don't put any of those in. But as sort of with your habitat, they will just kind of make sure everything's all tickety-boo when they go through it, basically. You can also assign keepers to specific habitats if you were just like one keeper per habitat, if you'd like to. So there's lots of sort of different aspects that you can kind of customise with sort of how it's looked after throughout basically the entire thing. Absolutely, and we'll talk about it more with some of the animals we're going to look at in a minute. But we've definitely got a lot of information available, and you can see things like the conservation status. So I think if you look on one of the lions, you can see there via the Zoopedia, critically endangered, as reflective of in real life as well. So that's always a key thing to pay attention to, and that can impact what you want to do in terms of conservation efforts in your zoo. And they're going to take a rest now, which is relatable. Very relatable. But we've got such a wonderful pride here of lions, and you can see all of the guests in the background. Thoroughly enjoying it. Yeah, and they're just having a great time. We've got a great space for them, so it's all pretty great. Okay, I reckon we can go look at our next animal.
Yes, please. That would be great.
I think we've got the beaver up next.
Ooh.
So the beaver comes from the North America Animal Pack, which, as you can see, has animals from North America. And one of our favorites, because when we were deciding what we wanted to show on the stream today, we're like, which ones are we going to go for? And we thought we'll pick out the beaver, because look how incredible that looks.
Glorious, I think.
It's glorious.
Yeah, look at him in the sun, having a good time, running around.
Having a great time. It's brilliant. So I think the beavers are a really great example of the different needs that you'll need to think about when you've got your various animals in your zoo. So space is a requirement. For some of them is water of a certain depth as well, for the ones who prefer to do a lot more deep swimming. You've got food needs as well, and social.
Yeah.
So a whole lot of things to consider there. What's the kind of approach you take when you're building a habitat for your animals, when you want to keep all of this in mind?
There's a lot of different ways to go about it, but for myself particularly, I like to kind of block out a sort of shape that works with the sort of design of the zoo I'm going to go for. And then obviously sort of with particularly beavers, with the deep swimming elements that you'd like to sort of showcase to guests, you've got to sort of think about maybe like how your boundaries are going to be working with the paths. Maybe there's sort of some glass and windows that guests could see through under the water, sort of different elements like that. And then with that, we also need to sort of figure out how the animal is going to be eating, so whether it's sort of we want to feed them on land or do we want to feed them under the water. Again, that can kind of show how your guest's going to be looking at the animals as well. So there's loads of different aspects to go from, but definitely we'll then start sort of padding the habitat out a little bit with maybe some decorations, like the nice giant dam we can see here, which would be a big favourite of the beaver, I'm sure. And we can also be putting in things like enrichment items that will sort of entertain the animals as well. There's lots of different things to look into for sure.
And you can see as well a nice example here with the feeder, and there's the different requirements that they have perhaps for not just what kind of food, but maybe where they want that food.
Yeah.
Like the animals have got a lot. Oh, it's so cute. I'm just going to lose my sentence.
It's just a little.
Just heading straight through. Look at it go. Oh, I love all of them. I think this is every time we reveal new animals in a new pack, about 50% of any stream we do is mostly the community team just going, look how cute they are.
So
look
adorable.
How incredible they look.
Yep.
And like with the beaver, you can see like with all of the swimming, adorable is the only word, right?
Yes, 100%.
100%.
Look at them go.
So let's move over now to another animal. I think let's go have a look at the red panda.
Yes, please.
A friend of mine went and did a red panda experience, and it was incredible to see. So we had to include them in the stream today as well. And there they are. So the red pandas have got a little bit of a different requirement, right?
Yeah.
They like to do a little bit of climbing around.
A little bit ambling, a little bit going upwards.
A little bit of playing there.
Oh, look at them go.
Welcome to the SimFest stream for Planet Zoo,
Yeah.
where me and Bernie melt every time the animals do something.
We just like to look at them and enjoy them and have fun enjoying themselves.
I especially like the ability to use the camera to focus in on them like this as well, so you can see almost a cinematic view of the animals as they go about in the different enclosures, do some climbing around and just get up close and personal. Because while you can zoom in by yourself from the top-down view while you're managing your zoo, you can also change up which type of camera angle you want to use and see a lot more from them. So as you can see, there's a lot of differences in the habitat that we've constructed for the red pandas compared to the one that we needed for the beavers, because with a red panda, they're not looking for all of that deep swimming,
Nope.
for example. They're just looking to have a good time, do a little bit of climbing, a little bit of exploring as well. Look,
Just
check
get
it
in
out.
there, get in there, my friend.
Get it. It's so cute.
Oh,
So another key aspect for the animals is that this is a simulation. So you do have to consider the life cycle. You'll have juveniles in your zoos. You'll also have adults in your zoos. And whilst it is bittersweet, you do have that entire process of life to consider. which is important for if you want to maintain a population, if you want to consider conservation as well. It's all different parts which you need to look into as you go. I think we could probably talk a bit about the conservation side as well, right?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, so sort of as you have here, we have a small group of red pandas, and as hopefully what will happen, they'll breed and sort of make more smaller red pandas, little baby ones, to prowl around.
Smaller.
Small, just tiny, slightly smaller. But with that, obviously, you'll start to see things like overcrowding if you'd like to keep everybody in the same habitat. But with that, what you can do is you can sort of set animals to release to the wild, or you could gift them back to the animal trading to put in other zoos for other players and things. So there's loads of options, but there is a plethora of things that you could do with each animal. But yeah, it's definitely a big thing. As you can see, yep, we could release it back into the wild. A lovely cared for animal back into its natural habitat.
It's definitely an important part for us to consider with conservation, the status of these different animals in the real world. We do our best to keep the status in-game reflective of the status in the real world as well. And likewise then being able to release animals into the wild is sort of reflective of those different initiatives that want to help with repopulation and help with the growth and health of those different animal groups, I suppose. They've all got different names, so we'll call them groups. And when you put them out into the wild. So yeah, that's definitely a key part of it. I think we can go look at yet another animal. Should we go have a look at the penguins?
Yes, please.
Let's go have a look at yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes, let's do it. So we've got this incredible structure here, which has been built, I think, by yourself.
Myself and our other special guest.
Our other special guest who will be with us later. So you can see here, you've got the king penguins that come from the Aquatic pack. So the Aquatic pack is one where we pushed forward to really try to introduce animals that could take advantage of a deep swimming feature that we'd added. So instead of like a little bit of splashing, they can really go, as you saw with the beavers earlier, was another example of that. And within the Aquatic pack, we also had scenery. So as mentioned, this is one of the DLCs that's available to pick up for Planet Zoo. And this is such a great example of the different scenery, a bit of the education there so we can look at those different elements, but just making a really wonderful habitat for your animals using the things that sometimes come with those packs.
Completely.
So that's like with the rocks, with the arches. And let's have a look at the penguins themselves, shall we?
Look at them.
Swimming around. There we go. They look incredible.
You can really see how they sort of make use of the space that you create for them.
Yes.
Especially using, like you're saying, some of the Aquatic pack elements that we'll be giving in the DLC. And it's, you can really sort of, your creativity is all your own. You can make what you would like.
I think one of the things that always astounds me is there's so much research that goes into these animals and the sort of references behind it as well. It's something that the designers on the team look at, the animators, the artists, just everyone look for real world examples of how do these animals behave in the wild, how do they behave within zoos, what can we do to make this as authentic as possible and, in my opinion, completely achieve it. Oh no, and now we've broken my stride because we've gone and looked at one of the babies.
Oh, little fluffy person.
Little fluffy baby. So here's a great example of, you've got the different life cycle, you've got the juveniles here with a completely different look because, as in the real world, this is what they would look like. And it's just chilling. And you've got the guests who can see through the glass there as well, so that they are keen to provide donations to help your zoo running and so on like that. I reckon let's have a look around the outside wall. I know you placed an education board, the wall to the left, I think. So yes, there we go. So this is quite a nice example. This is something that you can manage as well, and the intricate details, if you want to, is adding education boards. So we talked about the importance of education for, everyone really, and especially for your guests in your zoos. And with these, they will interact with them and they'll learn more about the animal, and this will sort of increase that guest happiness, that they'll have learnt something about these incredible, penguins in this case, king penguins that are swimming around in the zoo as well. Okay, I think we've got time for one more animal. Should we have a look at the badgers?
Yes.
The badgers.
Yes.
The badgers are wonderful. So our latest DLC that we've released is the Europe pack. And in that one, as you can see here, one of the stars of the show is the badger. We'll be having a look at some of the scenery from that pack a little bit later as well. But here we have the badger. And the badger is one of the animals that can use the burrows as well.
It is indeed, yes. So with the Europe pack, one of the enrichment items we added was the burrow. So as you can see, it is a burrow that you can place in the habitat, and the badgers can sleep inside of it. They can also frolic and do some other things in there, but that's a little secret for you to find out for yourselves.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's some really, really good things you can do with that. But yeah, the badger, I think, has firmly rooted itself now as my favourite animal in the game completely.
It's just so cute, and the way they use the burrows is it's fantastic. It's for me, it's a really great example of where the team have looked at the animals coming up, the animals that we have, because the aardvarks can also use the burrows, for example, and looked at what is something that they do, and how can we add this to the experience. And for the badgers, we added in the burrows, and for the aardvarks, so that they can, again, simulate that behavior, and they can do the things that you'd expect them to do, but with the camera, because we know that they might spend a bit of time in the burrow, because that's what they would do in real life. You can still see them and interact with them that way, which is fantastic. And we've got a tiny one here.
Little baby one.
Was this Rolo? This is Tegid.
Oh, look.
I know. This is where we spend a lot of our time. We build, and then we just go into camera view and we check out all of these. We've got Tegid there, Rolo, Tamara hanging out in this wonderful enclosure. It's
all
very,
adorable.
very
adorable little nuggets.
Adorable.
All of them.
Adorable little nuggets.
Yep.
Well, I think we've had a good look at a lot of these animals now. So I think what we can do, should we check in with Josh? So
I think that's a great idea.
As we mentioned, we've been having Josh in the background do some live drawing to give a little peek at how we construct key art for our different packs and, well, in general at Frontier as well. So as you can see here on the screen, Josh has been working, and wow, the progress is incredible. As you saw, he started with hello. That was started with hello on the screen, and we're already here. So here's an example of the progress that Josh, one of our artists, can make in almost no time at all.
Yep, speed.
It's incredible, and as you can tell, this is one of our friends, the capybara.
Yeah. Oh.
In the upcoming Wetlands Animal Pack, the capybara is one that we're really excited to add to the game, and so naturally it's featured in the key art. But yeah, this looks incredible. Is this anything that you think you'd be able to draw?
I wish. In my dreams, I would love to be able to do this.
In my dreams as well.
Yep.
Like we've had Josh for streams before doing this kind of live drawing, and the community loves seeing it, and we just sit here and we just get blown away by everything that we see. It's incredible. Oh, and his little heart as well. Oh, thanks, Josh. Your little hearts. So, a core part of playing Planet Zoo, aside from all the incredible animals and looking after them, is building the zoo. So, as you saw, we've got some incredible habitats that you can build, but that's not where it stops. It goes much further, right?
Yeah, definitely. There is so much customization you can make, and sort of you can go really small, you can go really big, depending entirely what you would like to do and your preferences, for sure. And
it makes a difference for your guests as well. They like to see a zoo that is well decorated. They like to see a zoo that is well looked after as well, of course. So we've picked out a couple of examples to show you today, and the first one is a lot of things from the base game. So if you were to be playing Planet Zoo and you wanted to try and recreate this scene, you'd be able to do so. So should we talk about a few of the elements that we've got in here?
Yeah, definitely. So this is sort of from the classic theme that is within the base game. So a lot of this is kind of centered around sort of really classic European type zoos. So sort of red brick, sort of, as you can see, sort of the foliage sculpture that you'd have in there. We have an enormous amount of foliage within the game. It's particularly in base game as well. There is a lot of foliage. So there's a lot of landscaping you can do to your heart's content. This is a really good example of some of the different flora and fauna you can find. A very, very cute little squirrel topiary.
This topiary squirrel is really cute.
Yep.
I know that Eltahanan on the community team, it's a particular favourite of theirs, that piece.
Yeah, I love it a lot. It is so cute. So yeah, this is a little sort of decorative area that you can make. And with this, the way we've kind of used this is almost as if a screen to the sort of the facility buildings behind it. So as you can see, we have again some sort of core facilities that you need to run your zoo, that are sort of the keepers and other sort of staff you'll need. Sort of like this, in this example, we've got the vets.
Got the vet station there.
So a little vet station. And we've got sort of a keeper hut.
Inside here, prepping some food in there.
Yeah, so your keepers will run in there with little tubs ready to feed all the animals. So obviously you'll see sort of with the simulation, guests aren't too keen on seeing some of these elements. So you'll use sort of scenery and buildings to sort of disguise them and keep them a little bit further away from your guest sort of interactions.
So as we've done here, we've added a wall, straight up blocked it from sight, and then we've decorated the area around the wall instead to just have that little bit of hiding for those facility buildings. But to create this, you can take a few approaches. You can go for a very straightforward, I'm just going to pop some pieces down so you can just cover it in topiary animals if you want to. You can go a little bit more piece by piece, and with the walls as well, you can have lots of different pieces there. As you can see, we've added a deck chair for those who might love this topiary enough that they want to come and relax here. And we've got a clock on the wall, so you've got plenty of different ways that you can customize this and really make it your own.
Definitely.
I just like the addition of a clock.
In case you need to know the time, guys.
Just around this little garden area that we've built out. And for placing these different things, it's as simple as picking something that you want and just
clicking it down, plopping it down.
So we've seen that with there we go, what have we got?
A tiny elephant.
Tiny elephant being added into that area there. And while you can do this piece by piece, and you can build out like bigger structures as well using like smaller wall segments, and you've got pre-made ornaments, there's also more that you can get. Oh, that lion looks fantastic. There's also more that you can find through the workshop. So we've got a wonderful community, and they create all of this mind-blowing stuff, and you could just take it and put it in your zoo.
Just steal it.
Well, it's shared. It's for everyone. You pop it in the Steam Workshop, and you can go and browse that, and then you can just add it to your zoo. And likewise, I mean, that's the one way to get inspiration or to just get help if you're not as avid of a builder. For example, I'm not as good at constructing these things as Bernie, so Bernie might add something to the Steam Workshop and then let me know where it is so that I can go take that and add it to my own and have a really lovely zoo. And likewise, on Bernie's side, having created something that you're really proud of, you can add that there, and then the community can join in and take it for theirs as well. And it's really great. If you have a look, I think if at the top of the screen, you can see our social media channels there for Planet Zoo, for Twitter and Instagram. We're sharing this all the time. Yeah. Just constantly, because there's always new stuff being made by somebody in the community, and it's always something that we'll look at it and we'll be like, how? Yeah. How are you so amazing?
All the time.
How did you come up with this? So we'll always push through for that and just keep sharing it, because, I mean, why wouldn't we, to be honest? When you've got something that amazing being made, you want to share it. And we've got some, is that some lighting that we've added in there now?
Yep, you can see, you can have a couple of different options with the lights. You can change the colour.
There's a lot of customization available.
A lot of customization. You can spend a lot of time just getting really deep into it, making everything exactly as you'd like it to be.
So we've got a lot of elements here that come with Planet Zoo, the base game itself, which we've displayed here for you today. However, we do also have DLC packs, as we mentioned before, and within some of those you get scenery. And I think the one I want to show next is the Africa pack. the Africa pack looks pretty amazing. So here we've got a small pre-built area made by wonderful guests today that uses lots of different elements from here. So when we do a DLC pack and we have scenery within it, we really look at how can we fit this with what do we call the pack. So we've got the Africa pack here, so where do we draw inspiration? Africa, and can we relate it to the different animals that are going to be in that pack? So you can see here with this sculpture as looking at, well, inspiration of that kind of taking different things and reusing them to create art, also displaying one of the animals. And you've got all of these buildings with the different styles and that fountain there, and it's all of this really, really great stuff.
Yeah, yeah, we take a lot of inspiration sort of from first-hand reference, as well as sort of other creations that other people might have done on the community. And with that, we kind of bring it all together to try and give some new sort of flavour back into the game per DLC, basically, yeah.
Shall we look at a few of the different pieces here? So I can see we've got a fountain that we're looking to put in the middle there. Here's a space that we made earlier for placing down a few of these bits and pieces. I think this has got a really great example of the pre-made parts that we supply. Again, you can make these incredible creations, but you can also use what comes in the packs to instantly theme a section of your zoo to go along with the animals that come in that pack. So we've got fountains like this one. I really like this sort of the mosaic style.
Yeah, that was a lot of the inspiration in this pack. There was a lot of sort of tiling mosaics and things like that. It's really, really bright and colourful.
You got the meerkat there.
Little meerkat there. Little highlight of the animals in that pack that you could get.
Yeah, they're all so cute. I love them all. So whilst we're having a look at a few of the different pieces that are available in the Africa pack, would you better tell us a little bit about the research side? You were saying that you look at it and you pull inspiration, but could you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So usually sort of the cycle before we create the DLC, we'll go into sort of a space where we'll research into sort of what sort of themes we'd like to look into, and then from that we'll sort of stem into, for example with this, we looked in sort of like a lot of North African architecture and things, and what sort of the key elements are that help describe that aesthetic and that sort of architectural, typical architecture you'll find in that area. So we sort of pulled out a couple of little different elements, trying to kind of, obviously it's an enormous part of the world, so there's a lot of different inspiration to pull from. So there's a lot of different sort of elements you can find here. So we've got some more sort of rustic, sort of plaster and mud based architecture, and then sort of you go from that to the sort of more refined sort of mosaic and kind of tiling patterns that you'll find sort of within sort of Morocco and areas like that. And then with these as well, sort of things like the customization you can get with sort of the flexi color elements that we put in the game.
Yes.
So you can really make it your own completely. Although we'll give you sort of these set patterns and things, you can completely
have inspiration
adjust it.
from multiple sources, right?
Yeah.
We'll give you some inspiration. The community will give you some inspiration. You might just find it as you play, and you see these two pieces and go, "There's something here.
Yep.
What if I add this to this?" As you can see here, a little bit of customization on that tile to change up the colours, which gives it a whole new feel as well.
Yeah, it looks almost like stained glass a little bit.
It does. It's quite clever, our Killian in the background there. Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely, like, a lot of these elements are all sort of reused. So we will provide you with some blueprints with the DLC, but yeah, the community blueprints as well on Steam Workshop. Incredible, like, places to look for inspiration, definitely. And yeah, you can pull that all into your zoos and, like we said, just build up around it, use it like exclusively, entirely what you'd like to do. There's so much customization that you can do.
Well, speaking of that customization, we talked about that you can do literal piece-by-piece construction for a building. We could have a look at a few of those panels just to show just how flexible that can be. So if we can grab just one or two of the wall panels and we'll place those down, you'll be able to see just how, well, flexible it truly is. So there we go. There's plenty to choose from.
There is a lot.
There's lots for you to draw inspiration from and to use and combine in different ways. But we provide not just fully made set pieces, as you saw with the fountain and with some of those statues, but we also provide all the way down to the most basic possible, where you've just got, well, a block,
Yeah,
basically, that you
almost,
can
yeah.
choose what you want to do with. We provide some slightly more basic but patterned things like with these columns, so you can create these of whatever style and whatever height, for example, that you want. And again, you mentioned the flexi color tools. We just wanted to give people that ability to really control what their own zoo looks like and really make it their own. And there we go. Doesn't look like much on its own, but this is just the start of an incredible space.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a beautiful tower. I can see it in no
Straight
time.
away, you just start building a tower, and then the inspiration strikes.
Yep, that's it.
Following on with that, with all of these different sizes and different pieces. I want to see what he does.
Yep, we're just going to
We're
wait
just going to
now.
watch now. This is a building stream now.
Yep, this is all we're going to do. But yeah, you can easily see how quickly you can build something up.
So we've already got straight away a small structure,
Yep.
And we put Killian under pressure to build that on the spot as well. Let's have a look. We've, as we mentioned, this all comes from the Africa pack. So why don't we go have a look at one of the other packs? I know we were saying the Badger was a favourite.
Yes.
So let's go have a look at a few elements that come from the Europe pack. So here we are. We've got our small European town.
Small,
that
hilly
we've built.
European town.
So with our small European town, there's a whole bunch of different elements that we've added to the game with this pack. Alongside the animals, as you can see, we have actual stained glass stylings there that you can use. And we've got things like new ways for guests to arrive at your zoo with the bus, a coach rather.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely a coach.
Yep.
The coaches for people to arrive. Rather than a sort of a traditional entrance, just give it that little bit more of like, here's the tour group, we're ready to go.
Everybody's peppy and they're ready to go.
They're ready to go. So all of this is part of the Europe pack, as we mentioned, the most recently released one. And unsurprisingly, we drew inspiration from around Europe.
Yeah, we did look a little bit at Europe. So there's a lot of sort of typical things you'd find within Europe within here, but we've really tried to break it down to some key elements that you definitely find, such for example, stained glass. But yeah, there's loads and loads of elements in this pack. I really, really like this one. Again, it's just lots of sort of, again, small pieces you'd like to kind of decorate things as and per you want. But again, we can always just take more blueprints and pop those down too. So it's really just super, super easy. All the different things you could do with this one.
And things like the shields and the flags just feel very sort of medieval Europe. And you've got more, I guess, slightly more Italian style in there as well with some of the architecture.
Definitely. There's sort of, we have a kind of a mixture of sort of more alpine type styles. So you have here sort of like typical kind of German Christmas market maybe. And then also we do have, some of the sort of more Spanish and Italian stylings. Oh,
and
gorgeous.
It's the beginning of a winter market right here. Up
Just
in
the
the
one
hills.
stall.
It's only the one stall for now, but more stalls will be arriving. That gives a little hint of talking about the management later as well, to be able to see that you've made sure you've kept it warm for your guests.
Yep.
We have, after all, just popped a cabin in the mountains.
Yeah,
So
it's going to be a little bit chilly up there.
Yeah, you're going to need a little bit more to go with that, I think. Are there any particular parts from the Europe pack scenery that are your favourite?
Honestly, I think it has to be this sort of like the clock tower elements that we put here. So these stained glass elements we have, they're all individual. So you can kind of place them in any sort of makeup you'd like. So you could build it as tall, short, however you want. But each of them sort of in their own way demonstrate individual animals that we have in the pack. So that's one thing we'd really like to do in the scenery, is kind of bring in the individual animals and sort of the individuality of each animal into some of the scenery. So like you can see here, you've got the flags with the nice sort of deer on it, and we've also got the badger. Look at him with his staff, as all badgers do.
As all badgers do. In the wild, you'll find most badgers with a staff, and most ibexes with violin.
Yep. Playing all the instruments, the sounds of nature.
Sounds of nature. I remember when we were going through introducing the community to the Europe pack, one of our community managers, Francesca, wrote this wonderful story.
Yes.
And off the back of that, the community made things on the Steam workshop related to that story, so we could add it to our different zoos here at the team, or on the team rather. which is just really, really adorable moment to see. I really, really liked it. It was really cute. Oh, okay. I think, is there anything else that you'd like to share about building today, Bernie?
Oh, I don't know. I think, again, I just want to kind of keep reiterating how fun it is. in all honesty, I think you can easily spend hours just getting lost in it if you really want to. Or not. You don't have to.
Oh,
Steam
you just
Workshop.
don't have to. There we go. Others can help you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Bernie. It's been a pleasure talking about Planet Zoo with you. And we're going to keep talking about Planet Zoo, but we're going to get another guest to come and join us. But while we get that guest ready, let's check in with Josh. Let's see how Josh has been doing with the live drawing. For those of you who have just joined us, welcome to our very special stream for SimFest. We're playing Planet Zoo, and we've just been talking about animals, we've just been talking about building, and next we're going to be talking about the management side of our very in-depth simulation. But just before we do, and we introduce our guest to help us do that, we're checking out the progress that Josh has been making in drawing capybaras for the key art for the Wetlands animal pack. So as you can see here, he's added even more than what we had last time. So you've got the juvenile in the corner, you've also got the shading, and you've got all of this being brought to life so fast, basically because Josh is incredibly talented at what he does. So I think without further ado, we can say thank you for that, Josh. We'll check back in with you again in a little bit to see how much further progress you've made. I'd like to introduce our guest who has been in the background playing the game for us and is now in the foreground, ready to talk about even more aspects of Planet Zoo. If I could introduce Killian.
Hey everyone.
Hey, welcome to the
be here.
stream.
Hey, Tim,
How did you enjoy playing while we were talking earlier?
It was great, but you really put me on the spot with the North African tower there.
Well, you did great though. You just straight away, just tower, done.
Best tower in the game.
I mean, I want to see that one on the workshop. That's what we're going to look
Let's
for.
do it.
So for those at home, could you tell them a little bit about what it is you do on the Planet Zoo team?
Sure. So I'm a game designer for Planet Zoo, and I take care of most of the animal research when we get to create our beautiful animal rosters and then get to look everything up and see how they should behave. Obviously, you mentioned beforehand the different needs that the animals have in terms of what they need in their habitat, if they climb, if they swim, how much space they need, etc. And we do all the research on that. We set everything like that up. And on the other end, obviously, we also care about features. So like animal talks, for instance, is something we game designers concept and then help the code team iterate on and just create something that's really fun for everyone to manage.
Brilliant. And speaking of management, I know that we've dived in and had a look at the animals themselves. We've done a little bit of construction, baking a tower and exploring the different building pieces you can get in a pack with scenery. But one of the other core parts that we haven't looked too much at yet is the management of, your zoo, of everything. So should we take a look at that?
Yeah, of course.
Brilliant. Where do you want to start?
Oh yeah, there's lots of options to start. So maybe if you could just have a look at the overall overview of your zoo. Obviously, you have many different menus. Here, for instance, we see the overview of all the animals that you have in your zoo. You can buy marketing campaigns. Here you see the general overview. Hello SimFest, that's our zoo here. You can set the different prices for your tickets for adults and kids. You can see which animals your guests really like. You can see, what you may want to improve about your zoo.
Tons of information.
And there's tons of information. And like you guys said earlier, you can play the game without delving too deep into that. The game will still run fine, and you'll still be able to enjoy everything that the game has to offer. But if you really want to manage something that's super optimized and you just really want to delve into all the nitty-gritty details of management, these panels are all there for you to
You've got it all available for you.
Yeah.
And this is always something that I find fun when we talk about how we play, because I quite like taking that big picture view of my zoo. I like looking at it from the top and just being like, yes, everything looks like it's in place and it's good. And then we'll go over to your computer and they'll be going into all of these menus and, like you said, optimizing all of these smaller details. And both our zoos run great. They have wonderful reputations, of course. But it is always fascinating when we go into those different details and how much information is available if you want it. And as you mentioned, we've got the menus, but we've also got visual tools as well. So should we have a look at the guest management a little bit, perhaps? How do we decide what we need to add for the guests.
Yeah, so we can take a look at the guests themselves. Obviously, we can take a quick peek at all the guest info panels, and we can see this one in particular is thirsty at the moment, so we may want to plop a food shop down, but obviously we have heat maps in the game as well. Different heat map modes, obviously, for temperature, for instance, that's currently active, and then we have guest management there as well, guest needs, and for the guest needs we can break that down and have a heat map for just the guest happiness overall.
So you can really see which areas of your park need a little bit more work of your zoo.
So if you look at hunger, for instance, we can see, okay, a bunch of people are hungry down by the red pandas.
By your tower, I notice
by the tower.
There's a bunch of people hungry there.
Maybe
so
we should put a food shop down there.
Might need to add a food truck or just a chief beef stand, perhaps.
Exactly.
Just give them something to eat. Clearly there's a desire there. But it was really easy to get really detailed information that you can view from the view I like, which over the top we can see the whole of our zoo here, and we can see, okay, this area needs a little bit more support in terms of food for the guests, for example, and maybe this area needs a bit more support in terms of facilities, or for if they're too thirsty or something like that. The guests will let you know, which is really, really great.
Yeah, and I love these kind of heat maps because with the color code, it's really easy just from a bird's eye view to figure out, okay, what's wrong and where can I take action.
So when it comes to the animals, what are the bits that you like to dive into when you're looking at how you manage them?
So I really enjoy looking at the different foliage that animals could prefer, or the different terrain options. So obviously every animal comes from a certain place in the world, and in the game their welfare connects to how realistically you've recreated their natural habitat. So for instance, here you can see this beaver comes from North America, as was mentioned before, and it thrives in the biomes of taiga, the aquatic biome, grasslands, and temperate. And so you could filter all your foliage in the foliage browser that we have for these tags, and then just make sure you plop everything in a habitat that fits the beaver's needs. Other things, obviously, for the animals that's super important is space requirements. So we've touched upon the land space and the water space. I think these guys, they have a lot of space to play around with. But you can see that in the Zoopedia, for instance, and other than that, obviously, the animals will let you know how much space they need for their group. And you can plan and adjust your zoo accordingly, really. It's always quite fun to set that up and see how different all the different species are.
It's always really interesting. I especially like, we mentioned with the beavers for needing a certain amount of water as well. They have their preferences there. All that information that we were just looking at in the Zoopedia, you can refer to all of it if you want to. But as we mentioned equally, if you just start off with creating a habitat that you think looks wonderfully, aesthetically pleasing, you can do a little bit of fine-tuning afterwards using the simple information you can see down the side there for the welfare, and make sure your animals are happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, to reiterate, everyone can play this game in different styles. Some people are more creative, some delve more into the management. We have different game modes available as well. So if you say, hey, I don't actually care what my beaver wants in terms of foliage, screw you, I want the European foliage instead, you can just go into the sandbox settings and disable certain aspects of these needs and of the game to just suit your own, wants, what you want from the game and how you want to play. It's really open for everyone to explore. You
definitely take control over how you want it to feel when you play, as you mentioned, with turning off some of those settings if you desire, if you just want to be creative. But if you're looking for a really authentic simulation, then you can do that as well. So we talked about the animal management, a little bit about the guest management. There's a pivotal part of any zoo which we didn't talk about as much yet, which would be the staff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways to manage the staff and how they interact with your zoo and, well, where they go, what they do, when they do it. Should we have a look at that a little bit? As you can see, one of our staff members is helping them out right now.
The staff members giving all the beavers their food. That's great. Yeah, so we have different types of staff members. Obviously, every zoo needs personnel to keep everything running. We've got keepers, we've got vets, we've got vendors, we've got mechanics that make sure that all the ATMs for your guests, for instance, are functional, or that all the barriers are intact. We've got caretakers that clean up all the litter if your guests weren't so nice to your park. So there's multiple staffs you can hire from this menu. For instance, you can manage their training level. For instance, these guys are all masters of their craft, and
of
they
course,
will take
all
care
the
of
masters. We're only the best for our zoo. We're only the best for our zoo.
And yeah, you can see, you know, if maybe all of your vendors are actually overworked, maybe we should hire new ones and we can just drop some in. Yeah, it really helps you manage it. Obviously, these staff members need different facilities to either rest or actually perform their work. We've earlier seen the little staff area that we've had, and we hid behind a wall.
We hid behind the wall, that's right.
So yeah, those have different facilities. Like we said, the keeper hut, where the keepers need to go to actually prepare the food. And that also ties again into your management, right? You want to make sure that all these facilities are close enough to the habitats where the staff members need to go to, because there's no point in having a keeper hut high up on the mountain if the keeper needs to go on a hike every time they need to go and feed your lions.
Proximity for these things is definitely important to look at.
For sure, yeah.
And another feature that I quite like is the work zones. So as you build your zoo over time, while we have a humble beginning here for our zoo on our special SimFest stream today, your zoos can get a lot bigger. And when they do, you might not want your one vet running from one side of the zoo all the way to the other, all the way back. So you can always assign them for, here's the area I need you to look after, right?
Exactly. So like our beautiful driver of the game is doing right now, is you can drag along over all the different facilities and habitats in the game to include them or exclude them from work zones. So if you want to make sure that your keeper, for instance, is only tending to the lions, you could only mark the lion habitat and all the relevant facilities that a keeper might need, so a staff room to rest or a keeper hut to prepare the food, and then assign the keeper to this work zone. And then the keeper will ignore everything else that's in the zoo and just take care of these assigned facilities. And like you said, this is super helpful if your park is very large or has different aspects and different areas, where you want to make sure, okay, these guys are only taking care about area A, and these guys are only taking care of area B, and that way you can make sure that they don't have as much travel time as they would if they would run from A to B constantly, because this animal just needs something and that one now not needs
Important
something.
to make sure that they're not overworked in that way as well, because they don't need to keep running back and forth to look after every single animal by themselves.
Exactly.
And that's teamwork, right? We all work together and we get the job done, and we have happy zoo with happy guests and happy staff and happy animals.
Happy animals,
Happy
yeah.
everything. So it's truly impressive just how much depth you can go into. But as we mentioned, you only do that if you want to. Your zoo will still run either way, but you can find all of these optimizations and you can really explore this really rich depth that you've got to the management in our simulation of a zoo. So, as much as I think we could talk about the management and look at all of these different details in depth over and over and just keep going, I'm really keen to check in with Josh and see how he's been getting on with the live drawing of the capybara. So should we check it out?
Yeah,
Let's check
excited.
it out. Incredible.
This is so good. I want to reach out and pet it.
Right? That's it's so lifelike. It's with all of the, well, it's just added in a whole bunch more detail and a whole bunch more shading. It's incredible to me that Josh is sat on sort of the other side of the room while we've been talking, and he's gone from writing hay in the middle of his screen
Right.
to this, where we've got an adult, we've got a juvenile, and I guess this will probably lead us into the next topic that we'll have, because as we mentioned before, the Wetlands Animal Pack features the capybara. And that is actually, we just recently announced it.
We did, yeah.
And so that will be coming out pretty soon. And as a little treat, we thought we'd pull a couple of those animals and show them to you today as well, to sort of round up our special stream for SimFest. So we've just looked at the capybara that Josh has been drawing so expertly. Let's have a look at the capybara in game. We've got a screenshot right here.
It looks so amazing.
You said you wanted to reach out and just pet the capybara.
Yeah, I want to pet this one. I just want to pet all the capybaras. Yeah,
That's what we do here. We just want to. We just sit here saying how much we want to pet all of the different animals. Admittedly, it's not so safe to do, so we don't. But with the capybara, you can see that sort of relaxation in a way.
Yeah.
Looking at that.
Just having a good time.
So, I know as a designer, you mentioned that you're involved in the research. So once you're given that task, so to speak, and you're told, like, look, we're going to be adding the capybara to the game, what is the sort of process? What kind of research do you do to really help inform all of these different aspects of the animal in Planet Zoo?
Yeah, so we obviously need to take care of multiple different aspects when we look at a different animal. When I do get the task of, hey, research a capybara, one thing we always do is we reach out to an external researcher who helps us, who's involved with zoological research in general, and who helps us vet us all the information of animals that we intend to bring to Planet Zoo, so we can make sure all the information that we have in terms of requirements, diet, etc., is all correct, and we're not including something that's wrong in the Zoopedia. And we're also respecting, obviously, the habitat and welfare requirements of all of these different animals. And then, obviously, I need to do a lot of research for the other departments as well, so our animators and character artists. Obviously, they do their own research for references as well, but it's really important for us to make sure that all the information we have also fits the game systems. So in terms of how large the animals are, who they can cohabitate with, in some cases, for instance, if they enrich each other. So all of these different parts get looked at, if they have certain color variations, how they behave, if they need deep water to swim in, if they need to have climbing space. With the burrowing that we're seeing here for the badgers, for instance, is also something that we just looked at and decided, okay, this is something that animals do, and this is also something we probably should represent in the game under these certain parameters. So we look at all different kind of things for the animals, so behaviors, and certain systems that we could just abstract and bring into the game so they feel more lifelike to the player.
So there's a torrent of information that you need to go out there, find, and then figure out how you're going to represent it in the game, which, as we've said several times, that just adds to how impressive and how authentic the game truly is when you're looking at a zoo simulation. Mm-hmm. Let's look at our second animal. So we picked out, I think, 3 from the Wetlands animal pack that is coming up, and we'll go have a look at the second one now. So here we have the caiman from this pack, the spectacled caiman.
Beautiful spectacled caiman. I think when I first saw this image, I just thought it was a wildlife photography, with the reflection in the water surface and how good the scutes of these animals look like. I'm really excited for these guys.
Yes. I get what you mean when sometimes we see these screenshots between the development team creating these animals to look so, well, real, basically, combined with the really skilled capture team taking these screenshots and looking for how can they really represent them. Sometimes I do have to take a double take when we're looking through these different ones, especially for this one and the one we'll show you next. We did have to do a little bit of a double take there. But as you mentioned, you've got lots of unique parts about these different animals. While we had the capybara, that's of course a little bit more soft and fuzzy, perhaps. We're looking at a very different approach for the spectacled caiman, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So obviously as a crocodilian, we take great care, or character artists take great care to just model everything, on the skin of the animal, the eyes, the teeth you can see, and all the different details that make these animals unique. Obviously, the spectacled caimans, known for this little bridge on their face, is also present on this animal, and we just, really make sure that, what makes the animals unique is also represented in the game. And for this one, I'm really excited. It looks amazing.
Me too, and I'm actually even more excited for the next one. Yeah. So let's go to the next one right now. This guy.
That's amazing.
I had to take a triple take that I wasn't sure it was a reference photo that was being used when I saw this across the room. But we've got the wild water buffalo. Mm-hmm. I really like the expression and just sort of the almost strength that you've got in this animal. Can you tell us a little bit more about the research that you had to do on this one?
Yeah, of course. So the wild water buffalo was actually something that I've just really fallen in love with over the course of researching this animal and developing the pack. Because at first you think, hey, maybe another bovine, maybe it's that interesting. But this animal is super unique. This animal is an endangered animal native to Southeast Asia, and just learning about the habitat fragmentation that they face, in terms of trying to survive and being endangered and trying to get along in the wetlands area where they are. And you just look at them and they're so massive and so unique looking with these horns. I think it's pretty much the longest horns in the animal kingdom, even on these animals. And how we just captured those, I'm massively impressed. I'm a huge fan of this animal.
Me too. As you said, I was just sort of in awe of this one when the team showed us just what it looks like. As mentioned, these 3, the capybara, the spectacled caiman, and the wild water buffalo, will be available in the Wetlands Animal Pack, which we've very recently announced. And otherwise, I think that's wrapping us up for our special SimFest live stream for today. Thank you everybody who's joined us to learn a little bit more about Planet Zoo. We hope you've enjoyed looking at the animals, the building, the management, and all of the sharing that you can do within the game. To celebrate SimFest, we also have a special discount on the Ultimate Bundle. So if you are new to Planet Zoo and you love everything that you saw here today, you can get all of it. So just head over to the Steam page and you'll be able to find out more about that. But for now, just saying thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.